Bears get a much-needed bounce-back win. Yo, what's up, world? Welcome back to the channel. APWSPORTS signing in, and it feels good to be doing one of these videos after a Bears win. We come back home, we look solid, and we get a 24-14 win in the division rival game over the Detroit Lions. A win is a win, so I know it's against Detroit, but a win is a win. I'll take it. But nonetheless, if you guys want to see more of these videos, Bear preview videos, Bear reaction videos, and throughout the NFL storyline videos, make sure you click that subscribe button and the notification bell. Leave this video a like, as that does help this channel to grow. But let's dive into this Bears win. Without further ado, let's dive into it.
I'm striving to get rich. That's why I almost went 2 years without buying shoes and feet. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little proud.
The biggest storyline for the Bears coming into this game, let's just face it, number one is the quarterback situation, and two, is this offense going to look anything different than what it was last week, no matter who the quarterback was? We got good news Saturday night as Justin Fields was named the starting quarterback, which I think that should have been the plan for the entire week, because once you go to Fields now, I don't think there's a way that the Bears should turn back. Unless something drastic happens, there's not a way that the Bears should turn back Dalton. Let's just leave it at that. And two, that offense looked like pedestrian, looked like a high school, like a crap show of an offense last week. So those were the two biggest storylines coming into this game, was the Bears offense. And in this game, the Bears offense looked like an NFL offense for once. It looked like an NFL offense, which made me happy. Now, we all know it's Detroit. It's Detroit. So I'm going to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. But the offensive game plan and the offensive scheme looked drastically different than it did last week against Cleveland. Now, first things first, prayers up to Monty. That injury looked serious, and he looked like he was in a ton of pain. So prayers out to Monty. Let's just pray and hope that that injury is not very serious, especially how it looked and especially the pain that he had on his face. Let's just pray that it's not nothing serious. And speaking of Monty, he was having another monster of a game before the injury. 2 touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing, being very physical, finding holes, breaking tackles, the usual Monty that we see. He looked absolutely amazing before the injury. And the storyline that I touched on earlier was the Bears passing game. Was it going to look anything different? And it did. The Bears took a good amount of shots down the field, something that we were devoid of the first 3 weeks of the season. Justin Fields is a very accurate deep ball thrower. And the first deep ball to Darnell Mooney was an absolute, just perfect dime. It was an absolute dime. Darnell Mooney run the route, and Justin Fields delivered a perfect football. Justin Fields played like the guy that we've got in the draft. He played up to that potential. Now, we're not expecting gangbuster type game from Justin Fields. He's still a rookie. He's still in that path of becoming a great NFL quarterback. But what we seen from him today, his escapability in the pocket, his ability to throw the ball accurately, his ability to throw the ball and attack deep down the field to his receivers, Mooney especially with his speed. Allen Robinson had a really good game, a bounce back game from definitely last week. So this Bears offense, it looked like an NFL offense, and it looked drastically better. Justin Fields, he does have to hold on to the ball when he's scrambling a little bit. I've seen that at Ohio State. He has a tendency to be just a slight bit loose with the football, especially on that fumble that lost about 25 yards. But he's so athletic that he was able to get back on the football and save that possession for the Bears. So Justin Fields looked like a drastically different quarterback with better protection. I know it's Cleveland, and I know they had Garrett and Clowney, and Detroit is Detroit, but the protection looked a whole lot better. They looked a whole lot better blocking in the running game, not just for David Montgomery, but they looked a ton better blocking for Damian Williams as well. Now, one thing I was kind of waiting to see from this Bears offense was they going to have any design runs for Justin Fields and use more of his athletic ability. Still didn't see too much of that. We saw a little bit in the play action game. We saw a little bit of the RPO, but I was expecting a little bit more of a bootleg. I was expecting a little bit more rollouts, but we didn't see too much of it. And frankly, how the game went, I didn't think they really needed too much of it, but I was expecting to see more of it, especially the QB runs with Justin Fields. I was expecting to see a little bit more of that in today's game. Nonetheless, this Bears offense improved. And to me, and I want you guys' opinion in the comment section as well, it looked like to me, just in my personal opinion, that Matt Nagy, number one, didn't design his offense, and or two, Matt Nagy did not call plays today. That's how it looked to me, because number one, with Nagy, we usually don't see them attack the ball down the field as much as they did today. Number two, we usually don't see different types of formation and different types of schemes with Matt Nagy's offense. We saw a little bit more of that today with the Wildcat and them giving Darnell Mooney the ball on reverses and getting their speed more involved. Not maybe just a decoy, but giving them the ball and letting them throw in open space. We really didn't see that from Matt Nagy's offense, let's just say the past couple of years. And it looked like, to me, that Bill Lazor had more involvement with this offense than he has, let's just say, in the past when he wasn't calling plays last year. At least that's how it looked to me. It looked like Matt Nagy took a step back, which he should have been doing, and let Bill Lazor have more of an imprint and let Bill Lazor have more say in this offense, because it looked drastically different from the usual play calling that we see from Matt Nagy. The offense looked drastically different. They attacked down the field more, which Justin Fields is very good at. They ran the ball more physical, which I was waiting to see, and they did that today. They used Damian Williams more in the running game, which I was waiting to see last week, which they didn't do as well. I see in this offense, and if Bill Lazor really had the hand in it like I saw with my own two eyes, this offense can move the football with the talent that it has. The offensive line, just to speak on that, the offensive line played a whole lot better today in the pass protecting game and also in the running game. Now, I will say they have to do a little bit better job of picking up those third down blitzes that the Lions were bringing. But for the most part, this Bears offense did a complete 180 from where it looked last week, where it looked pedestrian and where it looked god-awful. The keys I take from that is that it seems like Matt Nagy took a step back and let Bill Lazor handle more of the play call and let Bill Lazor handle more of the offensive schematics and have his input into this offense, because it looked drastically better. They were attacking physically up front with the running game, and they were able to do some things in the passing game with Justin Fields, and they were able to attack down the field more with Mooney and Robinson on some really great routes, and Justin Fields threw the ball very accurately. Now the interception, face it, the interception was not his fault. The interception was a great play by Detroit's defense on a tip ball and a dive interception. So the stat sheet is going to say interception, but I'm not going to put that on Justin Fields. I'm going to give the Lions the credit where credit is due. That was more of a great defensive play by the Lions defense. But for the most part, I would like them to be a little bit more aggressive in that second half. But for the most part, the Bears offense improved, and you couldn't get any worse than what it was last week. Let's just face it, Justin Fields couldn't look any worse than what he did last week, but even that, I said that wasn't on him, that was the scheme and the play calling. But he looked like the guy that I personally have seen at Ohio State and the potential that he has going forward. Now to turn things over to the Bears defensively. The Bears defensively looked solid. It looked more like a bend, don't break type of defense today. Even though we created turnovers, and in the first half, we were able to keep them out of the end zone and their red zone opportunities, and them going for it on fourth down and missing, and then the turnover strip by Robert Quinn. The Bears defense, for the most part, until later on in that second half, looked like a bend but don't break type of defense. Robert Quinn, speaking of Robert Quinn while I'm at it, Robert Quinn looks like a totally different player this year than what we seen last year. He looks like an absolute, totally different guy. Because last year we weren't seeing his playmaking. Last year we wasn't seeing him get to the quarterback as much. Last year we wasn't seeing him doing none of this. I'm glad we're seeing this out of Quinn because that opens things up for other guys, mainly Mack, to get after the quarterback. Mack had a sack as well, even though Mack was still dealing with some injuries. Akeem Hicks went out with the injury. Goldman, I didn't really see too much of his presence. And Nichols, on that crazy snap that Jared Goff looked like he was coming back to the line of scrimmage and changing protections, and the Lions snapped it, and he just took it for a freebie. And if you guys remember last year's game against the Lions at home, Nichols had an interception. So it looks like Nichols finds a way to get the football against the Lions. It looks like Nichols finds a way to get the football against the Lions. That's funny to me, but switch it back. But for the most part, with this Bears defense, I don't like them to be more aggressive later on in the game. And Travis Gibson, with his playing time, looks like he can be a big contributor with this Bears defense as well. And him playing like that just adds more to this Bears pass rush, and it adds more to the Bears depth in the front seven. Roquan Smith was running all over the field, playing an absolute great of a game. On that second touchdown to Raymond, when it looks like Deion Bush missed the check call and he missed the coverage and it was a botched coverage. Have to be better in those situations. The first touchdown, I think, was more of a great play design by Detroit with the play action and the movement that they had before the play. It was set up well to get Khalil Raymond open and get that first touchdown for Detroit. The Bears defensively, for the most part, is what we need from this Bears defense, is them to create turnovers and to create havoc. And you can see it throughout the season. If the Bears defense doesn't create turnovers and the Bears defense doesn't give that change of momentum to this Bears offense, it is a totally different football team. If the Bears defense does not create turnovers, get interceptions, fumbles, make key third down stops, they did that for the most part today. They had a couple of first down conversions by Detroit. For the most part, this Bears defense did a very solid job. It was more of a bend but don't break type of defense, at least in my eyes, because of the way the Lions were moving the football, especially throughout the course of the middle of the field. The Bears defense played a solid game. They started to let things slip away a little bit late. Overall, this was a very good performance by this Bears defense. The corners, I think, played solidly. I'm not going to say they played great, but they had a solid game. I think Detroit really schemed up some ways to get their receivers open. Jared Goff, I've said, he wasn't that bad of a quarterback in Los Angeles. It just looks like McVay and him wasn't really necessarily the best fit for them. But I think him coming to Detroit offense is still a solid offense. Quintez Cephas had a very solid game. Jalen Johnson played well. Shelley made some nice plays. Eddie Jackson, for the most part, had some solid plays. But that missed coverage by Deion Bush really cost us that touchdown. They did have a couple of missed sacks where Jared Goff was able to escape the pressure. You got to bring them down. I believe the Bears defensively, for the most part, they created some havoc. The running game for Detroit, I think, was a really good running game for Detroit. The Bears have to be a little bit better at stopping the run. And I figured getting Eddie Goldman back would help that. But Detroit was still having a very productive running game with Williams and also with DeAndre Swift. They were doing some things out of the backfield in the passing game. So I think Detroit schemed up a really good game plan, but I think when the Bears needed to make those red zone stops, they did not break. And I think that is a very important thing for this Bears defense going forward, especially when the schedule is getting tougher. You have Las Vegas next week. So as the schedule gets tougher, I think the Bears can take a little bit away from this game, especially the momentum that they can have with those turnovers and making those key red zone stops, especially if they're going to play this bend but don't break type of style. It's going to be key to get those turnovers. It's going to be key to get those necessary stops to keep the opposing team out of the end zone. So for the most part, outside of later with some blown coverages and some misdirection plays that they were a little bit fooled on, I think this Bears defense really played solid. Robert Quinn is having a hell of a year. Khalil Mack looked like he's starting to get back. You know, he's been dealing with some injuries. Akeem Hicks dealt with the injury, did not come back in the game. Eddie Goldman, I thought his presence would have been a little more felt, but Detroit had a really good running game today, so the Bears are going to have to improve on that. Ogletree made that really nice play in the red zone to keep the Lions out of the end zone. So overall, I'm going to give this Bears defense a good grade. It's not necessarily great, but they played solidly, and I think they could take some things from this game going forward. It feels good to say that the Bears are able to win the football game. The Bears improved to 2-2. Justin Fields gets his first career win as an NFL starting quarterback, and what better place to do it than at home in front of our wonderful fans at Soldier Field. What better place to do it? I know it's against the Lions, but a win is a win after last week's debacle against Cleveland. Justin Fields, I'm happy for you. You get your first win at home in front of the rest of my fellow lovely Bear fans. But that's all I've got to say about this game. Make sure you guys leave this video a like. That helps this channel to grow tremendously. And comment your thoughts about the game below. Do you agree with me any points that I had to say in this video? Do you disagree with anything I had to say in this video? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I read my comments, and I would love to see what you guys think and continue the discussion about this game going forward. And make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't. I have videos like reaction videos, preview videos, and videos on storylines that happen throughout the course of this NFL season. But other than that, that's all I've got. APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe out there. Have a great and excellent day, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bears win, bear down. Peace.